Hello, and this is the first video in a line of videos that are based around being a tutorial for Unreal Engine 5 and for people who are unsure of the basics and what they're doing. This video is going to be about how you operate within the Playspace, the keyboard shortcuts and hotkeys that I personally find very useful to know, even if I'm not going to use all of them. They're at least good to have on hand in memory. So the first thing is, how are you able to operate in the Playspace? By Playspace, I mean this big screen you see here. This is the Playspace. So this is what your character or the player will operate in, and it allows you to visualize your level and everything. To move around in the play space, you can either left click, which allows you to move your camera left and right. If you push your mouse forward, it pushes the character forward, and obviously mouse back is backwards. You can obviously move in WASD as well. I much prefer the right click. The right click allows just full camera movement. You don't move the character with the mouse apart from look direction. You do move, however, through WASD. You do have also Q and E for height. The same happens with left click, and then zoom with C and zoom out with Z. Now with the zoom, as you can see, it's a bit stretched. You don't have to worry about trying to find what the default was. Once you let go of the right click, it bounces back to default. So you don't have to worry about trying to find the default. The other thing with operating in the play space is your camera speed. So you'll notice up here it's 1.4. It is set to default at 1. You can change the speed here, but it's a bit finicky, so I wouldn't. How I would do it is either using left click or right click, your preference. For me, it's right click. So right click and then the scroll wheel will change the camera speed, as you can see up there. So that means I can basically use a high speed to zoom over here, and then once I'm around a location I want, I can bring it right down to have a proper look. So say like there's a building here, I can use a much lower speed to really have a look with the camera. Now with the play space, you need to know how to see what the player will see once they start the game. This for us in the editor is when you play the quote-unquote simulation. That's with this green play button up here. This simulation allows you to see and act as the character, so what the player will take control of. You'll notice if you click play, nothing, like you can't walk about and pressing WASD, nothing happens. It's because the cursor's here. To interact with the play space, you need to either left click or right click in. And you'll see it brings up with a warning on the top left for how to get your cursor back. I'll talk about that in a second. But now that the cursor's gone, I can WASD and I can control the character, in this case the pawn, that the player takes control of. So now that you're in this, you'll notice that sort of like on the right hand side there is some yellow text. These are items that aren't visible normally. You can only see them once you start the simulation. So the default pawn, game mode base, game network manager, that kind of thing, that is only visible with the simulation, because those are the default ones. So I can't interact with them, because if I try to move my mouse over to them, I just move the camera. To get the cursor back, you need to click, like the warning said up top left, is Shift F1. That gives you your cursor back, and now I can go over here and I can interact. But as soon as I click back in, I'm now in control of the pawn. I no longer can go over to the right and click stuff. So now you can stop the simulation by just clicking the stop sign here, or you can use page down. That works just fine. And I forgot to mention, to play the level, to play the simulation, either click this or use Alt P and it will start the simulation. Um, so now we've done how you can operate the Playspace and move like the editor view around. Now we can talk about the keyboard shortcuts and hotkeys that I think are useful when editing in the Playspace. You'll be pleased to know that the default Windows hotkeys, so the copy and paste, the cut, the delete, all that, that translates over straight away. So copy is still Control C, paste is still Control V. There is cut, Control X, which is the combination of delete and copy. There's undo here as well, which is Control Z, redo at Control Y, and select all at Control A. With the select all, if you do, you'll have to be aware it selects everything in the level, and I mean everything, as you can see on the right here as well. So you do have to be aware of that if you Control A. You'll also be pleased to know that you can Shift left click over here to highlight a list, or Control left click to highlight certain ones. You can also clear your selection, so you'll see I currently have 4 highlighted, by clicking Escape. It clears the selection, so you don't have to worry about it. You can also move around in the selection menu with the arrow keys. I personally don't like it because it's slow. I much prefer either searching for what I need here or scrolling about, because I sort of like to put everything into files. So um, you can use arrow keys, again down to your preference, but not for me. The other thing you can do is there is a right click menu. As you can see here, you get browse to asset, edits, visibility, snapping, etc. etc. You have to be aware that it will change. The right click menu will pop up on what you right click on. So you'll see this sort of big square, landscape square, is currently highlighted. If I right click over here, this one's now highlighted. So just be aware of that. Now you can also save with Control S, so that saves all, so that saves the level. So you can see up the title here where it says untitled, there's an asterisk. That means that there's nothing saved yet, or there's stuff that needs to be saved. Sorry. So you can Control S, and in this case it'll prompt me to create a new level because this is just an untitled one. Otherwise, if you're already in a level and you see that asterisk, it just means that that there's things that needs to be saved. You can Control S and it will save all. You can also, though I wouldn't rely on it, if you exit out with the X up the top right, it does ask if you want to save certain bits that haven't been saved. I wouldn't rely on it personally. That's my personal preference. But it does warn you. You can also hide stuff. So this highlighted square here, if I click H, it will hide. As you can see here, it creates like a sleepy eye little icon. I can click that icon and I can bring it back. Again, I can like flick through it. You can unhide things via command. However, and the reason why I've just hidden all these is that it will only unhide everything. If you want to unhide a specific one, as far as I know, you have to click each individual ones that you want to unhide even, sorry. Other thing within this perspective view is your view modes. So where it says perspective up here, you do have different view. So what we see, what you normally see here is the perspective view. It shows kind of like what the character, what the player would see and how it would look for the player. You can go into orthographic mode, so you can see the top of the level, and it goes to wireframe. You can change that to lit top, um, and it sort of looks like this, but it will default to wireframe for orthographic. Obviously, there's the different variants. There's left, right, front, back, etc., etc. Again, like I showed, there is different view modes. So there's lit, which is what the player would see. Unlit, which takes rid of all like the light. Wireframe, which I wouldn't do in perspective because it can give you a headache, though it does create a cool pattern. What else is there? There's things for lighting only, so you can see just sort of like you can see the sort of like if I go to lit, so I see it's like these like black lines in lighting only. That's like almost disappears. It focuses entirely on lighting, and when you have different objects, it allows you to see exactly how the lighting behaves, which is nice. I personally just keep it on lit. Obviously, if I need wireframe, I need wireframe, but that's about it. You can also do see what um, hotkeys there are for shapes, so or just assets in general. So there are hotkeys that transfer over from and are default as far as I can see from 3D from 3ds Max. So W will have it in the translate mode, so this movement mode where you can bring along X, Y, Z, multiple methods or modes, sorry. You can also get the scale with R, which allows you to go one direction or multiple. And then there's finally E for rotate, which again just allows you to rotate. Um, and then obviously, as I said, W for translate. What's also good is, so obviously you see I've highlighted on cube here. If I bring myself over here, and so I see, okay, so now I've done whatever I want over here, I can search for sort of like in this case the cube, click it, and so like it will bring up this like whatever mode. So I was on translate, so it brings up the translate where the cube is. If I click F, it brings it right into focus, which is very nice. So it's like you need to work on something that's across the map. Instead of zooming around trying to find it, you can search for it, click F, and go right to it. It does bring it where it's directly in view. And I say this because if I click this one over here and click F, you can see it's not zoomed in because it tries to fit what the center of it in the center of the play space. So it means that it's not as zoomed in for something as big. So just something to remember. Right, and also what you can do, you can go to edit, editor preferences, and this will allow you to change the keyboard shortcuts. There are a lot of keyboard shortcuts you can do, and I mean a lot. As you can see, I'm still scrolling. And you can change them how you want. You can search for something like translate, and I can have it where it's like the W, so the translate mode for shape for assets, um, is no longer on W. I can set it to bloody numpad 2 if I really wanted to. So you can set it up as you want and to your preference, which I find really nice. Um, and yeah, I think that's about it for important shortcuts. Thank you very much for watching this first video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.